As we can see, I am in neutral, go to release the clutch, and it starts to go like it's in gear. Strange. What's going on, guys? Welcome on to today's video. It is an absolute scorcher today, so once again, why not spend it on a beautiful bike like this? Today we are taking out the MV Agusta Brutale 1000 RS. As always though, before we get into it, let's roll the intro. Before we get on the road, going to do a little sound test. She does sound good stationary, but definitely sounds better getting through the gears, so let's do that now. This Brutale is the RS version, and it's the cheaper model line of the RR. And when we say cheaper, we're talking about 7 grand cheaper. So if you do want to get yourself an MV Agusta and you do love the look of the Brutales, have a look at this RS. But don't get me wrong, this isn't a cheap bike. It is still going to come in at £22,000. I am loving this red though. This is the Ago metallic red, or you can go ahead and get the grey metallic. I've seen some of the reviews on the RR where people have said that the Olin suspension is too aggressive for the road. It's definitely a track orientated bike. This bike doesn't have Olins. At the front we've got the upside down Marzocchi forks, and they are going to be adjustable manually. And then underneath at the rear we got a SOX rear shock. So that's going to be one of the biggest differences between the RS and the RR. I am finding on these back roads it is still quite bumpy. I don't personally think you can truly test how suspension feels just by a demo ride, because I highly recommend, if you do get a bike, go and get it tuned. Go and get it set up professionally to you, your weight, your riding style. Yeah, it might be hard and bumpy right now, but then if you got it tuned to your weight, it might completely change the bike and the way it handles. MV Agusta have made this RS a little bit more comfortable for the road compared to the RR. They have stuck on the clip-ons on this, and they have raised them up slightly as well compared to the RR, which is definitely more of a cafe style racer position. So with these raised clip-ons, it does bring your top half up a little bit more, so I'm not like bent over like a sports bike. There is a noticeable bend on my top half, but there's not a lot of weight on the wrist, so that's pretty good. Next thing, moving on to the comfortability of this riding position, is going to be the pegs. So they have got adjustable CNC pegs, so you can adjust them slightly to your riding style, and or depending on what types of boots you ride as well. MV Agusta do claim to have got a dual compound seat on this. I tell you what, my arse is already feeling the effects of this fairly hard seat. I do have a delicate derriere, and I apologise. One thing you do notice as soon as you jump on this bike, start getting into these back roads, is it's light. When I say light, it's still pushing around 205 kilos wet. The way MV Agusta have set up the geometry of this bike, it just flicks. You get on some bikes and you're like pulling it over because of the weight. Can't feel the weight, and it does just drop really, really nicely. do like the styling of it. It is quite aggressive from the way it looks, but it's definitely going to stand out if you do go to a bike meet or pull up to a calf. People are going to be looking at this, that's for sure. Being MV Agusta's flagship engine with that 1000 cc's, this bike is pumping out 208 brake horsepower, and I tell you what, it feels quick. It's hard to describe how different engines feel, but this and the ZH2, they're quick. Like, it's hard to get it across in words. You just go, and half the time you don't realise how fast you're going. This can easily get up to 100 miles an hour and you don't feel like you're doing 100. Bear in mind, this top end finishes at 186 miles per hour. I'm not sure I'd want to do it on a naked bike, but it's there. If you want it, it's there. Whereas you take the Aprilia with the V4 engine, that thing pulls you through. It's quick, but it's the power. It's powerful. This doesn't feel powerful, it just feels quick. The exhaust note out of this, out of stock, it sounds really good. Get around 5,000 RPM and then you just pull through, and it's got like more like a higher pitch kind of scream to it. And with all that power, what do you need? You need braking power. So this is rocking the Brembo style levers. It's got the Brembo levers and the pump at the front as well. You got your twin 320mm discs at the front, and at the rear we're hitting up to 20mm disc, obviously with the Brembo caliper. And it stops. One thing I am noticing with the Quickshifter, going up, it's fine, there's absolutely no dramas, goes in every time. My problem is with the downshift. You get some shifters out there that you can just touch them and they'll go. This one you have to apply quite a bit of pressure to actually get it into place. Sometimes you feel like you've done it, the engine will drop and then bring back up, and you look down and you're still in the same gear. So that's just a little gripe for me. There are quite a lot of vibrations, tingles coming through the handlebar. If I was to buy this bike, I definitely would put in some extra weighted handlebar ends. Now, for a £23,000 bike, I'm going to put it out there and say the switch gears are pretty cheap. They look like the same ones that are off the 800s, so to me that means MV are trying to save money and they're just having one switch gear that goes across the board. I say that because on the right hand side it's got a launch control and a cruise control button. On the 800RR had exactly the same buttons, but none of them works. So yeah, that's my only gripe at the minute with the handlebar situation. Switch gears are cheap, but talking about switch gears, let's have a look at them. Starting on the right hand side at the front there, you've got your daytime running lights. You can either turn it off or just leave them on auto. Underneath that we've got the cruise control button. Now to get the cruise control to work, you have to hold the cruise control button for a few seconds, and then in the center here, there you go, pops up, green flash in, says cruise control. On your left hand, you're going to up and down the speed you want. Once you're happy, push it in, and there you go, you've activated the cruise control, 42 miles an hour. To cancel cruise control, pull in the clutch or touch either the brakes. I know a lot of bikes, their throttle, you can rotate it forward and that will also disengage the cruise control. But this bike isn't one of them. So looking at it from the rear, we have got a single-sided swing arm, and then we've got two twin exhausts either side with a very large cat box underneath. Side mounted number plate holder. Like I said, the seats, they claim To have dual compound, I can't feel it. Definitely hurt my backside. Underneath the cruise control we have got the speed limiter. Same again, you're going to hold that in for a few seconds, it will pop up on the dash, and then you're going to use this dial on the left hand side to go up or down with the speed. Push it in to activate it. It's not the most intuitive system I've used for cruise control and speed limiter, and then also I don't like it being on the right hand side. I've said this for other bikes, it needs to be on the left hand side of the bike so I can activate it, deactivate it without having to move my right hand. Left hand side, pretty simple. We've got our passing light and our high beam. We've got our left and our rights for our menu, and our cruise control indicates left to right and horn. Lastly, on the right hand side at the bottom you've got the kill start switch, and that button is also the mode selector. So whilst it's running you're going to hold it in, your mode at the bottom here will start flashing, and then you hold it again to change to the next mode. So at the minute I'm in sport, I'm going to hold it, there you go, starts flashing, release, hold again, there we go, rain, hold again, race, and the last one will be custom. And then we're going to bring it back to sport, let go of the throttle, give it a few seconds and it will stop flashing. MV have gone pretty small with this dash, so they've got the 5.5 inch TFT colour display. It does have all the relevant information you do need on it, but the one problem I am finding in this sun, if you get any sun that's behind you, the screen pretty much is a whitewash. We do have the mode selector button, so there are 4 modes. So you've got sport, rain, race, and then custom. What you'll notice with the rain, when you put it into it and then you go to accelerate, there's a massive difference in the power. But not only that, it limits it to 85 to 90 miles an hour. What is nice is when you go onto custom, go onto your phone and you download the MV Ride app, and it's free. Connect it to the bike, select your bike, and then from there you can then go ahead and change certain parameters. You can change the engine response, so it's going to be smoother or more aggressive, the engine braking. Unfortunately, because it's not electronic suspension, you can't adjust that, it's going to have to be manual. But if you were to get the RR version, you could adjust the suspension with inside the app. And another feature that is fairly handy nowadays to have, the app provides a turn-by-turn connection between your phone and the bike. So as you can see down here, there's Gleeblands, there's an arrow to the right, and then it says 0.19 miles. Obviously if you've got something like Senna, you can get the voice in your helmet and then look down and then see the turn-by-turn. I've got this turn-by-turn on the KTM Super Duke GT, and me personally, I still prefer having my phone or some form of a sat-nav so I can see exactly where I'm going. Because sometimes having this is not always easy, especially when there's a couple of roads next to each other, trying to work out which road you're trying to take just from an arrow saying 0.19. Not always the easiest. Ah, Jesus! I hope you saw that. He come round that corner way too quick and the back end of his trailer started skidding out. Woo! My life flashed before my eyes and it was really boring. Just for you, Zoe. I'm a big believer, you don't know how a bike's going to handle. You can watch as many videos as you want, but you personally don't know how it's going to be for you until you demo ride it. I could say this is the best bike I've ever ridden. You could jump on it and be like, nah, don't like it. And that's okay, we're allowed our own opinions. I'm also allowed to say this heat's hurting my bum, because it is. Not only different rider modes, but we do have different levels of traction control that we can adjust. We've also got, it's like their anti-wheelie, so it's the front wheel lift mitigation, so you can decide whether you want that on or off. Let's just call it what it is, anti-wheelie, on or off. At a minute, UK's having a heat wave. Well, I say the UK, definitely the south. So 25 degrees today, it's meant to be 30 tomorrow, 32, and then Monday 36. I've just purchased this RST Track Tech Mesh 4 jacket. I've never owned a mesh jacket before, and I tell you what, it's fantastic. So breezy, I do not feel that I'm in 25 degrees. I can't recommend what it's like to come off, but I can recommend what it's like to wear it when it's hot. Let me know in the comments box below. Would you spend 23 grand on the RS, or would you spend £29,500 on the RR? One thing I'm finding with the throttle, that first 10%, it's like there's nothing there. Sometimes it feels like there's a slight delay in the response between me twisting it and anything happening. And then when it does happen, when it does start kicking in, it's very jerky at the start. You can hear it, like it's like it kicks in. That's if you just literally just kind of giving a bit of a yank. If you're really smooth with it, it's okay, but sometimes you just want to twist and give it some full beans. Another thing this bike does have, once your phone is connected, using the jog dial, go left and right, on the screen here, you can control your music. So pause, play, left to right, as in skip and back. You can do call, so you can answer calls and cancel calls. It does show then your other navigation, so it was in the middle there, but now it's on here, a little bit bigger. Or what sometimes it's cool, sometimes can be a bit dodgy, it's got your lean angles left and right, and then the one underneath is your the angle of the bike going forward or back. So when you accelerate, obviously the bike lifts up slightly, so it goes to 0.4, and when you brake, it goes down to 0.7. Say lean angle, and it just shows it. I've said this before, and this could be a little bit dangerous. So they've got it on like the ZH2, the Kawasaki S1000 SX as well. Some of others like BMW, they've got it. And the reason why I think this could be a little bit dodgy is, especially with the lean angles, you then keep trying to better your score. So the Kawasaki would log your best lean angle left and right. So then every time you go out, you try and get a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, until one day you're going to come off. To me, if you're going to have that ability, have it on a track mode. So when you're in the track mode, that's when that information comes up. Not just when you're on the road, it's not needed. That's another thing to mention. This is 1000 cc's and it's still got 15,500 RPM. My KTM at a 1290 has 10,000 RPM. Like, you feel like you're using all the rev range, you look down and you're still only at 10,000. Like I said, this thing is quick. Come up to the traffic lights, putting your feet down. Me personally, I don't find any dramas. This has got a seat height of 845mm, so it's not a short seat height, but I think potentially it's quite thin in the crotch area, which does mean that I can get both feet flat on the floor. The tank is quite thin. The tank is only 16 litres, so it ain't the biggest tank. It does fit quite nicely in between your legs, but there's not much fairing to protect you against the wind. Just up from the tank, up here we do have an Olin steering dampener, just to stop any speed wobbles you may well get on this bike. As always guys, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate you getting this far in the video, and if you have got this far, give us a like, leave a comment, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel. plenty more videos coming out on beautiful machines like this. Till the next one, ride safe.